Breaking. Trump issues a new presidential executive order regarding transnational criminal organizations. Today, February 10th. Presidential executive order on enforcing federal law with respect to transnational criminal organizations and preventing international trafficking. Executive order. Enforcing federal law with respect to transnational criminal organizations and preventing international trafficking. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1. Purpose. Transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, including transnational drug cartels, has spread throughout the nation, threatening the safety of the United States and its citizens. These organizations derive revenue through widespread illegal conduct, including acts of violence and abuse that exhibit a wanton disregard for human life. They, for example, have been known to commit brutal murders, rapes, and other barbaric acts. These groups are drivers of crime, corruption, violence, and misery. In particular, the trafficking by cartels of controlled substances has triggered a resurgence in deadly drug abuse and a corresponding rise in violent crime related to drugs. Likewise, the trafficking and smuggling of human beings by transnational criminal groups risks creating a humanitarian crisis. These crimes, along with many others, are enriching and empowering these organizations to the detriment of the American people. A comprehensive and decisive approach is required to dismantle these organized crime syndicates and restore safety for the American people. Section 2. Policy. It shall be the policy of the executive branch to A. Strengthen enforcement of federal law in order to thwart transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, including criminal gangs, cartels, racketeering organizations, and other groups engaged in illicit activities that present a threat to public safety and national security, and that are related to, for example, 1. The illegal smuggling and trafficking of humans, drugs, or other substances, wildlife, and weapons. 2. Corruption, cybercrime, fraud, financial crimes, and intellectual property theft. Or 3. The illegal concealment or transfer of proceeds derived from such illicit activities. 4. B. Ensure that federal law enforcement agencies give a high priority and devote sufficient resources and efforts to identify, interdict, disrupt, and dismantle transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, including through the investigation, apprehension, and prosecution of members of such organizations, the extradition of members of such organizations to face justice in the United States, and where appropriate, to the extent permitted by law, the swift removal from the United States of foreign nationals who are members of such organizations. C. Maximize the extent to which all federal agencies share information and coordinate with federal law enforcement agencies as permitted by law in order to identify, interdict, and dismantle transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations. D. Enhance cooperation with foreign counterparts against transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, including, where appropriately permitted by law, through sharing of intelligence and law enforcement information, and through increased security sector assistance to foreign partners by the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security. E. Develop strategies under the guidance of the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security to maximize coordinate among agencies, such as through the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, OCDETF, Special Operations Division, the OCDETF Fusion Center, and the International Organized Crime Intelligence and Operations Center to counter the crimes described in Section A of this section, consistent with applicable federal law. And F. Pursue and support additional efforts to prevent the operational success of transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations with and beyond the United States, to include prosecution of ancillary criminal offenses such as immigration fraud and visa fraud, and the seizure of the implements of such organizations and a forfeiture of the proceeds of their criminal activity. Section 3. Implementation. The furtherance of the policy set forth in Section 2 of this order, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Director of National Intelligence or their designees shall co-chair and direct the existing Interagency Threat Mitigation Working Group, TMWG, which shall a. Work to support and improve the coordination of federal agencies' efforts to identify, interdict, investigate, prosecute, and dismantle transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations with and beyond the United States. B. Work to improve federal agencies' provisions, collect reporting and sharing of and access to data relevant to federal efforts against transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations. C. Work to increase intelligence and law enforcement information sharing with foreign partners battling transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, and to enhance international operation capabilities and cooperation. D. Assess federal agencies' allocation of monetary and personal resources for identifying, interdicting, and dismantling transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, as well as any resources that should be redirected towards those efforts. E. Identify federal agencies' practices, any absence of practices and funding needs that might hinder federal efforts to effectively combat transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations. F. Review relevant federal laws to determine existing ways in which to identify, interdict, and disrupt the activity of transnational criminal organizations and subsidiaries organizations, and ascertain which statutory authorities, including provisions under the Immigration and Nationality Act, could be better enforced or amended to prevent foreign members of these organizations or their associates from obtaining entry into the United States and from exploiting the United States immigration system. G. In the interest of transparency and public safety, and in compliance with all applicable law, including the Privacy Act, issue reports at least once per quarter detailing convictions in the United States relating to transnational criminal organizations and their subsidiaries. H. To the extent deemed useful by the co-chairs and in their discretion, identify methods for federal agencies to coordinate as permitted by law with state, tribal, and local governments and law enforcement agencies, foreign law enforcement partners, public health organizations, and non-governmental organizations in order to aid in the identification, interdiction, and dismantling of transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations. 1. To the extent deemed useful by the co-chairs and in their discretion, consult with the Office of National Drug Control Policy in implementing this order. And 2. Within 120 days of the date of this order, submit to the President a report on transnational criminal organizations and subsidiary organizations, including the extent of penetration of such organizations into the United States, and issue additional reports annually referring to describe the progress made in combating these criminal organizations along with any recommended actions for dismantling them. Section 4. General provisions. A. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1. The authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or 2. The functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, and legislative proposals. B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. C. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural enforcement at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies or entities, its offices, employees or agents, or any other person. Signed, Donald J. Trump, The White House, February 9th, 2017. It comes to mind to me here that the person, one of the people that has infringed on immigration law is Barack Obama himself, the former president of the United States, because Sheriff Arpaio has already proven with his team that the Obama birth certificate that was on the official government site is a fraudulent piece of paper. And the former President Barack Obama has to answer to that crime. And I hope that the judicial system under President Trump will not foresee that as a very treasonous act. A second issue has to do with another naturalized citizen, George Soros, the Hungarian Jewish billionaire banker. His son Alexander was born in New York City, so he's a born citizen. But they are trying to delegitimize a properly constitutionally elected President of the United States, Donald Trump. And this man is again abusing the laws of the land. He is a naturalized citizen, and that would be treason. So there's another person that has to be judged by the law of the land and punished accordingly. George Soros is just another example of an immigrant abusing the law of the land and harming the American populace. So Obama and Soros are two examples that come to my mind. I'll leave links below for you for this on State of the Nation.